Now, a group of teenagers that refused to take a picture with Paul Ryan ended up receiving a lot of criticism, and now they're speaking out again. Now, recently, of course, we reported that dozens of 8th grade students from South Orange Middle School in New Jersey had declined to pose for a photograph with Paul Ryan during a trip to Washington. Now, they did get some praise, but they also got a lot of criticism for standing up for themselves. Some said it was disrespectful, disgraceful. Others said that they were just indoctrinated by their teachers and their parents and didn't actually know anything. One person actually called these children losers and sniveling little brats. Well, that's nice. One said, "It's a shame our country is coming to this. 8th graders can't even respect our elected officials." Another individual wrote, "Few of these kids are actively engaged enough to name one piece of legislation they have specific disagreements with and instead parrot their parents' and teachers' talking points." Another one said, "How did those 8th graders get so brainwashed to understand the politics of today and decide who is the villain?" And another one said, "It must be the teachers. I suggest this is the work of the teachers, useful idiots that they are." So,
wow.
Yeah, and I remember seeing a tweet after we did the segment last time saying that they're not capable of making political decisions on their own because they're only 14. It's not even their own opinion because they don't have their own brain until they're, 20? That's not actually what they said on the tweet, but that's kind of the opinion. So, now, first off, I think that that's wrong because it infantilizes young people who are actually smarter than some of us old people give them credit for. Just saying. Now, to one of the kids, in the face of this criticism, a girl named Jordan McCrae Robinson decided to reach out to a local newspaper and write an op-ed defending her and her peers' decision. She said, I'm here to tell the nation that although we're only in the 8th grade, we have our own thoughts and opinions. My teachers did not influence my decision to take a picture with Mr. Ryan. I decided I didn't want to take a picture with someone who doesn't have my best interests in mind. Mr. Ryan and the administration want to cut health care for 23 million people. Am I going to be one of the U.S. citizens that will be affected? Now, she also talked to some of her peers as well, one being an LGBTQ plus student, said that, "Hey, man, I wasn't in the picture because I think if I were, I would feel like I were betraying myself." You had Tristan Reynolds, who actually was in the picture, who was African-American, saying, "Hey, I thought it'd be cool to be in the picture, but not because of his views, it's because he's actually in a powerful position. But I understand that people would take that picture out of context and think that we're supporting him when actually we don't support him at all." Another student said, "I was in the picture because he's third in line to be president. He's a powerful man, and even though I don't support him, we were under the impression that we would actually get to talk to him afterwards. But instead of doing that, he just got in his car once the pictures were done and left," which is kind of a dick move. Hey, kids, photo op time. Oh, photo op's over. Time to go. I got to go beg some wealthy donors.
Yeah, spoiler alert, Paul Ryan's kind of a dick.
Yeah, kind of a dick.
It's not... No, he is. I mean, it's Paul Ryan. You can go there with Paul Ryan. He's a dick. I mean, I don't care. You can post that on Twitter. Ron Placone said Paul Ryan's a dick. Yeah, he did. I did. And I'd do it again.
There's video
and I'd do it to his face if given the opportunity. I mean, I wouldn't be... I would just be like, yeah, you're a dick. And that'd be it. But anyway... yeah, I applaud these kids, but I mean, I kind of see, like, if I was ever a parent, I would not impose politics on them at a super young age. I would rather, try to let them come to it on their own.
Sure.
So, I mean, and I saw things like where parents were saying, yeah, I was telling my 5-year-old how evil Donald Trump is, and I'm like, really? That's you want to do that to a 5-year-old?
Yeah.
So
that's a little
I
young.
kind of see some of the principles that these people are bringing up.
Sure, but at 14,
but there's a different right. Exactly. When you're 14, you're cognizant of a lot of things that would turn you off to a Paul Ryan. First of all, we live in a more diverse country. Or at least diversity is more celebrated on the surface than it was, even like 10, 15 years ago, or when you and I were in grade school, Jeff, whatever.
Yeah.
So a lot of kids, they have Muslim friends. They know they're Muslim friends. So they're going to be turned off to Donald Trump. A lot of kids have, especially here in California, we've heard there's a lot of kids that are saying, yeah, I don't support Donald Trump because he wants a lot of my friends to not be in this country anymore, or he wants me to not be in this country anymore.
Right.
They recognize stuff like that. And this generation, even despite what has happened recently with the Trump administration, there's still a lot of young people. They only know a black president. Not only a black president, but a black president that was very popular for 8 years. They don't understand racism the way prior generations have. Is racism still alive and well? Yes, of course. Sadly, it is.
Sadly.
And, I don't know if it's ever going to be a problem that we don't deal with. But we've come a long way. We've come a long way, comparatively speaking. So it's very practical to say, yeah, a 14-year-old is going to be turned off to a Paul Ryan or a Donald Trump.
Right.
And with good reasons. And when you and I were 14, Jeff, I don't think there was a lot of that stuff on the surface the way it is with
true.
this administration.
Also,
even
let me just add too, before you go on, the younger people have the access to the internet. They have access to as much information as they could ever want or need. And so it's right at your fingertips. When I was growing up, we just barely had dial-up. So it was one of those things where now there's so much information out there about political stuff, especially in how polarized this country is now when it comes to politics. I mean, it's in essentially everything. It's in comedy, it's in television shows, it's in movies, it's all this stuff. So you can't really get away from the politics. So people are gonna notice things. It's much easier to get information now than it was back then. Let me give you a couple more quotes for her. She said, "I, for one, think it's ridiculous for adults to shame kids for being politically aware and not being afraid to express ourselves. I think it's not only rude, but ignorant to tell a 14-year-old that they're not entitled to an opinion because kids have no experience in the real world. So who should care about what they think or say?" She goes on to respond to that and saying, "Excuse me, if I'm not in the real world, where am I? I have the same right to express myself as everyone else in this country. Why shouldn't I be able to show how I feel about what the current administration is doing?" She said, "If I was 32 years old and decided not to take a picture, this wouldn't be news. Nobody would criticize me because of my age. So what gives adults the right to do so now?" She said, "I respect my elders and Mr. Ryan, but I will not take a picture with someone who stands behind a president who wants to ban Muslims from the country. Why should Muslims or anyone else be banned because of the president's lack of understanding and compassion for people who aren't white, male, and Christian? I respect views and opinions that differ from mine, and I expect the same when it comes to my opinion. I will not tolerate my peers and I being shamed for voicing our opinions. My generation is the future. I will be working and living in a society created by today's decisions, so why shouldn't I be able to speak my truth?"
I mean, that was a very beautifully written op-ed. I don't know what the author has against 32-year-olds, though.
I'm 33.
I'm 32.
So,
why the hate? No, I'm just kidding. That
grounded.
Was a beautifully written piece.
No, that was an excellent op-ed.
It's very well written. Yeah,
very
well written.
Job.
And
some people are going to say too, well, she was helped by an adult. It had to have been the teachers. They can't give people credit at all. Even if they're young people, they don't get any credit. Look, I remember being 14 and having I had my own thoughts, right? And yeah, some of them were wrong, but I had my own thoughts. And I remember thinking, why the fuck does nobody take me seriously? I'm actually thinking about these important, heavy things. And yet nobody takes me seriously. So I understand how that feels. And I think what's weird is that a lot of these people who are criticizing them don't seem to have that realization or self-awareness that people that young still can have very important thoughts. It's not
absolutely. I mean, I don't get to perform at colleges as often as I used to because I'm more based like I have to be in LA more often now, which is fine. But I've always been really inspired by the younger generation. I think this generation coming up is very engaged. I think they're very intelligent. They're very intuitive. I think that we're going to see a huge influx of a rise in political interest, which is a great thing. And I think that they have a lot to say. And going on all this, another thing that kind of ties in here that I feel very strongly about, I think the voting age should be 16. I think if you can drive a car, you should be able to cast a ballot, and you shouldn't have to wait until they can send you off to war to get killed to be able to vote. I do think the voting age should be lowered to 16, and I'm basing this off of the fact that I've went to, when I go to colleges, I'm billed as a political event, so I get mostly politically savvy kids that show up to it, which might be part of the reason I'm as
So
optimistic as I am. My sample size might be a bit skewed, to be fair, but yeah, I mean, I think that. And a lot of times during my Q&A, I'll say something like, who's going to go out and vote? And all the kids that raise their hand and say no, I ask them why, and they say it's because they're too young, they can't vote. They're freshmen. Right. So they're very interested, they're very involved, but they're not able to cast a vote. So I think people like that young woman should be able to cast a vote now. She's ready now, but we'll make the age 16 just so we have some barrier or whatever. But she should definitely be able to cast a vote in the next presidential. She should definitely be able to cast a vote at the age of, I guess she might be, depending on how far she is at the age of 14, she might be 18 come 2020. So she might be able to vote anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know what month her birthday is, but she should definitely be able to vote regardless. I think the voting age should be 16, and I do feel very strongly about that. I think the drinking age should be 18. Yeah. But that's a whole, if they can send you off to war to get killed, you should be able to buy a beer. I'm sorry. And if you can, make a decision to, use one of the most addicting products out there, which are cigarettes. I'm not trying to say don't smoke cigarettes. That's your choice. That's your right. But it is very addicting and expensive. If you can make that decision at 18, you should also decide whether or not you can drink a beer.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYT Nation.